Parliament heats up on reconciliation. Rehabilitation and Resettlement Minister D.M. Swaminathan defends his ministry.
At least you have the courtesy of checking that with my ministry and see what we have done. You are just getting up from the seat and talking that we have not done anything for this year.
Fighting fraud and corruption, Attorney General tells global prosecutors that Sri Lanka needs to strengthen its legal provisions.
The need to further enhance and strengthen this legal regime has been well recognized and acknowledged.
Pledge of support. Trade unions of Sri Lankan Airlines lend their collective support to the airline's restructure program. Delhi pollution. Sri Lanka's skipper says the game was more important.
We are not used to that. We discussed with the team and we said we need to forget about that.
Indian medical body lambasts the Indian Cricket Board.
The answer is no.
Donald Trump upsets traditional allies. Arab world and the West join in condemning US President's move to recognize Jerusalem in unison. Iraq demands a backtrack. Bringing you news from across Sri Lanka and around the world, I'm Indi Variamuatha on Ada Derana 24/7. A look at your top stories. Attorney General Jayantha Jayasuriya told international prosecutors and deliberating stringent mechanisms towards offshore asset recovery that Sri Lanka cannot overlook and underestimate the importance of international cooperation. He pointed out that this is ever so pivotal if the country is to succeed in countering offences pertaining to money laundering. The Global Forum on Asset Recovery 2017 concluded in Washington, D.C., USA yesterday after 2 days of knowledge sharing among delegates on Sri Lanka, Nigeria, Tunisia and Ukraine as priority countries. Speaking at a session, Attorney General Jayantha Jayasuriya said the fight against fraud and corruption needs to be strengthened with new dimensions to the country's legal provisions.
The inaugural Global Forum on Asset Recovery, hosted by the United Kingdom and the United States with support from the Stolen Asset Recovery Initiative, focused on assistance to 4 priority countries: Nigeria, Sri Lanka, Tunisia and Ukraine. This forum was a place for partnership and collective action, bringing together partners and officials from throughout these countries to coordinate action steps. It provided a platform to empower the investigators and prosecutors charged with identifying and tracing assets and getting necessary cooperation with financial centers in recovering and returning them.
The need to further enhance and strengthen this legal regime has been well recognized and acknowledged in the recent past. The insufficiency of the current legislation relating to stolen property to deter offenders and address the needs of the society was further highlighted with the globally accepted doctrine that criminals should be deprived with the opportunity to enjoy fruits of their wrongdoings. This had brought in new dimensions to the administration of justice mechanisms. These new dimensions brought in the new changes to the existing legal mechanism are need to be addressed. The importance of international cooperation cannot be underestimated if we are to succeed in this endeavor.
We can say, as UNODC, that while the states parties and other stakeholders in the convention have always had a notable interest in asset recovery, we are definitely seeing an increase in practical activity related to asset recovery.
Je suis désolé, Monsieur le Ministre.
Our financial market must be a clean market. We want to have ethical and moral principles, and we want to have integrity for a successful restitution. It must involve cooperation between the government, which is restituting the funds, and a government which is getting the funds. You need to have real partnerships. These governments who have these assets must seize them and make sure they're fortified, and on the other hand, the other governments must make sure corruption does not go on.
The official time period of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to investigate the issuance of Treasury bonds has been extended once again. The term of the Commission was extended thrice before, and the Commission members have been entrusted to hand over its report to President Maithripala Sirisena tomorrow. The term of the Commission, however, is extended once again by 23 days from the 8th to the 31st of this month. The relevant Gazette notification was also issued today. Supreme Court Justice K.T. Chitrasiri is the chairman of the Commission of Inquiry, while Supreme Court Judge Prasanna Jayawardena and former Deputy Auditor General Kannasamy Velapulle are the other members. And in Parliament, accusations of underspending were highlighted in a heated exchange today, with the JVP accusing Minister of Prison Reforms, Rehabilitation and Resettlement D.M. Swaminathan that his ministry had not utilised almost half of the money allocated via the 2017 budget. Minister Swaminathan, however, defended his ministry, asserting that the allegations were false.
The Minister of Prison Reforms, Rehabilitation and Resettlement was allocated 19 billion rupees in 2016 budget. Only 50% was received. You have not spent 49% of the money allocated for you. Why are you a minister? Do what you did in the past. One of the biggest issues in the north was the housing problem. The Minister of Prison Reforms, Rehabilitation and Resettlement took on the task of building 65,000 houses. A massive problem was created after attempts to defraud the money. I don't know what international organisation has decided this, but I found out this morning that a certain country has listed Sri Lanka among the foremost corrupt countries in the world. Your housing project, along with the bond scam, might have contributed much to achieve that position. You are all talk and no action. You have done nothing. So how can this foster reconciliation?
Unfortunately, Honorable Bima Ratnayaka has given all false statements regarding my progress as far as my ministry is concerned. I want to clarify that immediately. Under the purview of my ministry in the year 2016, and as a result, poverty level at district and northern eastern provinces reduced. In 2017, 9,000 million has been allocated to the accelerated resettlement program of our ministry. I wish to state that the allocation given in 2016 and 2017 is successfully utilized and has spent more than 92 to 95%. So please don't give us false information to this August Assembly. I am not interested how you got the documentation, but you have given false statements to this country.
This document detailing the progress made by ministries on allocations was obtained from the Parliamentary Library. Data from the Parliamentary Library is considered to be true. They have obtained this from data of the Treasury. I will enter this into the Hansard. I challenge you to enter your data in the Hansard.
At least you have the courtesy of checking that with my ministry and see what we have done. You are just getting up from the seat and talking that we have not done anything for this year. For 2016 and 2017, we have done so much of work. In the northern province are here with me. You can find out from them. But don't make false statements and give wrong information to the public. I'm very sorry to say that you, being a responsible member of parliament, should not make statements of this nature.
எனக்கு மிச்சம் சந்தோஷம் மலைநாட்டு பதிய கிராமங்கள் அமைச்சரும் பார்லிமெண்ட்ல இருக்கிறேன். எங்களுக்கு தெரியும் திகம்பரம் அமைச்சர் வேலை செய்யறதுக்கு ட்ரை பண்றது. நல்ல ஒரு அமைச்சர் வேலை செய்யற ட்ரை பண்றது.
පාරට පස්සේ බැලුවොත් අවුරුදු 3ම හොඳට වැඩ කරලා තියෙනවා.
திகம்பரம் එමතුමාට නෙවෙයි මම කියන්නේ.
I'm not talking to Minister Digambaram, but the government. The estate community voted for this government with a lot of hope. Does the minister who was elected by the estate community even have an office there to listen to the people's worries? Everyone is in Colombo.
Ahead of the local government elections, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe states that the United National Party will be made the strongest party at ground level. The Premier made this remark addressing the UNP's electoral meeting for Colombo Central in Koswatha today.
We won the 2015 election and we rested in 2016. We will strengthen these branches and will make the UNP the strongest ground-level organisation. We were the opposition from 2004 to 2015. Do we want to be in the opposition again? Mahinda Rajapaksa and the group thought that we would lose power, failing to consolidate our power. We ensured our power within 2 years. Their fate now is to fight with a powerful government. We have now started to work on the remaining. Now we will be able to increase the development speed, increase jobs and build houses. In order to do that, we should work to win the forthcoming election and ensure our power.
And the joint opposition says that this election will determine the future course of the unity government. Addressing a media briefing in Colombo today, leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Professor G.L. Pires, said that the SLFP knows that they are facing a heavy defeat ahead of the election.
The results of this election will decide the existence of the Sirisena Wickremesinghe government through the next 2 years. We're getting proposals to unite. The Sirisena faction knows they will be trounced. That is why they're so eager for us to join them. This election will also pose the question as to whom the SLFP belongs. The Prime Minister will make a special statement in Parliament tomorrow. He said that the agriculture sector has had an impact because of unfavourable weather. He will be requesting an additional 650 million rupees for the lease of the building of the Ministry of Agriculture. This was done under the directives of the Prime Minister. He was the one who took this building on rent. He gave money to those who assisted in the elections. They are selling the port tomorrow and will provide compensation to its workers and send them home. They're not creating jobs, they're taking away jobs. We will join whoever aligns with our principles. I joined from the UNP. He too left the UNP. Our doors are open to those who accept our principles.
Incidentally, President Maithripala Sirisena and former President Mahinda Rajapaksa were seen together today at a wedding in Colombo. The President and the former President signed as witnesses in the wedding of Southern Provincial Council member Pasanda Yapa Abewardena, the son of State Minister of Finance Lakshman Yapa Abewardena. The United People's Freedom Alliance and the United National Party deposited money for several districts today, having decided to contest under the symbols of the betel leaf and the elephant, respectively. Meanwhile, the joint opposition decided not to unite with any faction which holds ties with the government and to contest in the upcoming election from the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna under the symbol of the flower bud.
Representatives of the joint opposition met with former President Mahinda Rajapaksa last evening and arrived at conclusions over the upcoming local government election. Their feedback was not good and discussions do not have a direction.
We decided that as long as they are siding with the UNP, we will not join anyone when contesting the election. Our condition is to create an anti-UNP movement. We will not join the UNP or those who are affiliated with the UNP in any way. We cannot continue discussions this way. However, everyone was willing to accept anyone who is willing to leave the government. The joint opposition will contest under the symbol of the flower bud.
Meanwhile, the United People's Freedom Alliance deposited money for the districts Colombo, Badulla, Anuradhapura, Monaragala, Matara and Putlam.
Both of us deposited money. We will contest from the UPFA under the symbol of the betel leaf.
Meanwhile, the United National Party made deposits for districts Badulla, Ratnapura, Kandy, Monaragala, Gampaha and Anuradhapura. Meanwhile, the SLFP deposited money for the Gampaha district to contest under the symbol of the hand.
The UNP is facing this election with much enthusiasm. The victory is confirmed. There is no problem in that regard.
Before we bring you more stories on the upcoming election and the comments made by political parties, we move on to other local stories. The number of subjects featured in the GCE ordinary level examination may be reduced in the near future. Minister of Education Akila Viraj Karyavasam spoke on the possibility of reducing the number of compulsory subjects from 9 to 8 today during the national celebration of the student insurance scheme Suraksha introduced by the government.
The national celebration of the student insurance scheme Suraksha, themed Protect Forever the Children of Nation, was worked off today at the Anula Vidyalaya Nugegoda under the patronage of Minister of Education Akila Viraj Karyavasam. The program was also observed at schools this morning island-wide.
I am not only happy to implement Suraksha insurance scheme, but I'm also proud. Many questioned whether we could accomplish this, but we made it a reality today. We decided to grant the Suraksha insurance scheme not only to the students of government schools, but also to private schools, Pirivens and also to international schools. We visited Finland 2 months ago. They only study for 20 hours per week, but still they've got the best education system in the world. We will mostly reduce the 9 GCE ordinary level subjects to 6. By the beginning of 2018, we will grant a branded tab to all students passing the GCE ordinary level examination. By 2019, no student will be dropped from the GCE ordinary level. Every student will be selected for A levels and they can select any subject they want.
More local news will follow after this short break. The Locomotive Operating Engineers Union decided to continue with the strike following failed discussions with the Secretary to the Ministry of Transport. With that, let's take a look at more stories making news from across Sri Lanka tonight.
Locomotive Operating Engineers Union launched a strike last midnight in protest of the recruitment procedure of locomotive operating assistants. Despite some office trains operating this morning, the public was severely inconvenienced. A discussion intended to resolve the issue this afternoon between the protesters and the Secretary to the Ministry of Transport, G.S. Vithanage, also failed. Vithanage, however, said railway season ticket holders can travel in SLTV buses. Meanwhile, Railway Main Control Room also announced that all 9 mail trains due tonight have also been cancelled. The Colombo Additional Magistrate today imposed a fine of 1,000 rupees on former MP Sajin Divas Gunawardena, who pleaded guilty for the failure to declare his assets from the year 2011 to 2012. The Bribery Commission had filed a case against the former parliamentarian for failing to submit declarations of assets and liabilities during his time as an MP during the said term. Inter-University Students' Federation organised a protest in front of the University of Kalaniya this evening. They demanded the government to release the 2 IUSF members, Sanat Bandara and Venerable Ratkarawe Jinaratana Thera, who were arrested.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
All trade unions of the Sri Lankan Airlines have pledged their collective support to the government's move to restructure the national carrier. Their support for the measure had been declared during a meeting with the airline's top management, including its chairman and the CEO, as well as the national chairman of the Public-Private Partnership project recently. During the meeting, it has been divulged that the restructuring process is implemented under the Public-Private Partnership Unit of the Ministry of Finance, along with the cooperation of advisors of the airline industry. The government has appointed a special ministerial committee led by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to oversee the process, along with Ministers Mangala Samaravira, Dr. Sarath Amanugama, Nimal Siripal de Silva, Kabir Hashim and Malik Samaravikrama. State Minister Iran Wickremaratne says Sri Lanka will miss targets to keep the budget deficit below 4.6 to 7% this year due to natural disasters. The minister, however, expressed optimism that the government will be able to manage the budget deficit within this range during next year, navigating to the direction of 3.5% by year 2020.
The budget deficit has been like 6% and 7% in the past period. And when we inherited the government, one of the decisions we made, because it's a budget deficit that creates the macroeconomic instability. And that's one of the things that we should tackle. So we had put a mid-term plan to bring the budget deficit down to 3.5% by 2020. And this year we were expecting it to be more like 4.6%, 4.7%. It will be more than that, only for the reason that we have had floods and we have had drought in this country, and therefore there is an adjustment, probably about 0.5%. Everybody understands that it is an exogenous factor and out of the control of the government and the economic planners. That is the primary balance has always been negative in this country, the primary balance. And for the first time it's going positive in 2017, rupees 45 billion. In 2018, it will be rupees 145 billion.
Well, moving on to international business news, Prime Minister Theresa May said yesterday that the government would give more details about how to preserve and protect the United Kingdom's international and internal markets in the second phase of Brexit talks. She has found it difficult going in Parliament of late.
We're leaving the European Union, we're leaving the single market and the customs union, but we will do what is right in the interests of the whole of the United Kingdom. And nothing is agreed until everything is agreed.
Jeremy Corbyn! Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, in July, the International Trade Secretary said Brexit negotiations would be the easiest in human history. Does the Prime Minister still agree with that assessment?
Well, I'm very pleased to report to the Right Honourable Gentleman, as I've just said, negotiations are in progress and very good progress has been made in those negotiations. We will ensure that there is no hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. We will do that while we respect the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom, we respect the internal market and protect the internal market of the United Kingdom. That's the whole point of the second phase of the negotiations. Because we will deliver this, we aim to deliver this as part of our overall trade deal between the United Kingdom and the European Union. And we can only talk about that when we get into phase 2.
May has found it difficult to come up with a formula that satisfies both EU member Ireland, which wants to avoid creation of a hard border, and Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party, which says the British province must quit the EU on the same terms as the rest of the UK.
And in Sri Lanka, the Colombo equities let out marginal gains in a lackluster trading session today, with the all-share price index closing 2.04 up to end at 6,382.95, while the S&P SL20 index gained 8.94 to end trading at 3,717.48. Market turnover was around 986 million rupees, with foreign investors ending as net sellers of 38 million rupees worth of shares. Foreign participation accounted for about 55% of total market turnover.
You are watching Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Other Derana 24/7.
When following up on your top international story tonight, world leaders, including traditional allies of the United States, are urging Donald Trump to reconsider his decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Growing concerns have been mounted, warning the move could derail peace efforts and stir unrest in the region and beyond. Yesterday's announcement, long sought by Israel, breaks decades of U.S. policy as well as the international consensus. Meanwhile, Iraq demanded that the U.S. government backtrack on the decision, cautioning against dangerous repercussions.
I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. I've judged this course of action to be in the best interests of the United States of America and the pursuit of peace between Israel and the Palestinians.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and move the U.S. Embassy to the city as a historic landmark.
This is a historic day. Jerusalem has been the capital of the Jewish people for 3,000 years. It's been the capital of Israel for nearly 70 years.
As Israelis celebrated the move, Palestinians seethed in a sense of betrayal. Palestinians switched off Christmas lights at Jesus' traditional birthplace in Bethlehem and the city of Ramallah last night in protest at US President Donald Trump's decision.
These denounced and rejected measures create deliberate constraints to all the efforts towards realizing peace and reflect the United States' withdrawal from practicing its role as a peace mediator.
Just half an hour after Trump's announcement, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that there was no alternative to a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians.
It is only by realizing the vision of two states, living side by side in peace, security and mutual recognition, with Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and Palestine, and all final status issues resolved permanently through negotiations, that the legitimate aspirations of both peoples will be achieved.
World leaders too reacted to the decision, saying it could stoke regional conflicts.
I'm intending to speak to President Trump about this matter, that the status of Jerusalem should be determined in a negotiated settlement between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron highlighted the move as a regrettable decision, while his Iraqi counterpart Haider al-Abad said the decision by the US would unleash turmoil in the region and the world alike.
The Iraqi cabinet vehemently rejects this step and expresses deep concern over such a step and over moving the United States Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. The Iraqi government strongly warned of the decision fallout and ramifications.
Meanwhile, the Iraqi foreign minister said it had summoned the US ambassador in Baghdad, adding that it would hand him a memo protesting Trump's decision. Shiite majority Iraq is the only country to have alliances with regional powerhouse Iran and the United States, which do not see eye to eye.
Here's a look at other stories from across the world.
According to the United States Geological Survey, an earthquake of magnitude 5.1 hit northern Indian state of Uttarakhand last night. Strong tremors were felt across parts of North India, including the national capital, New Delhi. A memo by former Japanese Emperor Hirohito about how his country entered World War II has fetched $220,000 at an auction in New York. Also known as the Imperial Monologue, it chronicles the slide into war until Japan's surrender in August 1945. A wind-whipped wildfire raged yesterday into a wealthy Southern California neighborhood, destroying at least 4 homes, threatening dozens more and scorching a building at a winery owned by billionaire media mogul Rupert Murdoch. The so-called Skirball fire, which erupted early on yesterday as the latest in a rash of major blazes fueled by hot, dry Santa Ana winds, has burned about 150 acres near large estates in the Bel Air neighborhood of Los Angeles by early afternoon.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, in sports tonight, Sri Lanka captain Dinesh Chandimal pointed out that dropping his deputy captain Lahira Thirimanne for the third and final test against India was not an easy call. Addressing Indian media following the third test, he further said that even though it is unfortunate for Thirimanne, Dhananjay de Silva and debutant Roshan Silva deserve a spot in the team.
Vice captain not playing a game, it's always tough for him and us also. It's a tough call, but Dhananjay and Roshan Silva, they deserve to take that opportunity, especially Roshan. He scored more than 6,000 runs in the domestic cricket, and Dhananjay also. It's really unfortunate for Thirimanne, but Dhananjay and Roshan Silva, they grabbed their opportunities.
Journalists also questioned the Sri Lankan skipper on air pollution levels the players were subjected to at the Firoz Shah Kotla ground in New Delhi.
In Sri Lanka, you won't get this much pollution, but we need to play the game. So then after the first 2 days, we discussed with the team and we said we need to forget about that.
Meanwhile, the Indian Medical Association slammed the Board of Control for Cricket in India for allowing the third India-Sri Lanka Test match to go ahead at the Firoz Shah Kotla ground in New Delhi amid high air pollution levels. Chairman of the medical body, Dr. K.K. Agarwal, said allowing the test to be played could lead to lung damage owing to high levels of air pollution.
The Indian Medical Association previously requested the Board of Control for Cricket in India to consider atmospheric pollution as a factor while focusing suitable playing conditions for a better venue after Sri Lankan players complained of the air quality at the national capital. The US Embassy measure on air quality showed levels of poisonous airborne particles known as PM2.5 had reached 222 on Wednesday afternoon on a scale where the maximum reading is 500. Last month, more than 30,000 runners competed in the Delhi Half Marathon, just days after smog shut schools amid a public health emergency in the capital as pollution readings in some places peaked at 500. The third test match saw play being halted on several occasions, with players like Suranga Lakmal even throwing up on the field.
Two wrong messages have gone to the community. The messages have gone to the children that you can play cricket with these levels of pollution. The answer is no. When you exercise, then you bypass the nose, take the air directly from the mouth, which goes deep into the lungs, and that causes damage.
And in football, Cristiano Ronaldo became the first player to score in all of his team's Champions League group matches in a season as Real Madrid defeated Borussia Dortmund 3-2 in a thrilling match yesterday.
Real Madrid defeated Borussia Dortmund 3-2 yesterday, with goals on the night from Borja Mayoral, Cristiano Ronaldo and Lucas Vazquez, giving the home side the victory. Striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored twice for Dortmund. Ronaldo netted with a fine strike to score his 9th goal in the competition this season. He has now scored 114 goals in the Champions League and is 17 ahead of Barcelona forward Lionel Messi. Ronaldo is also the favourite to retain the Ballon d'Or trophy at the annual awards ceremony in Paris tonight. The 32-year-old, who helped Real win the Champions League and La Liga last season, is one of 7 Real players on the list, the most from any team.
And we cross over to the Weather Centre for your forecast first evening edition.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Now we can expect temperatures to vary between a mild 18 to 25 degrees Celsius. However, the low pressure zone, which is prevalent in the past few days, is expected to decrease, bringing in clear skies for the most part of the island. Matra and Hambantota is expected to experience some cloudy weather, while Colombo, Galle and Kandy will experience some sunshine. Now, of course, we've been keeping an eye on the cyclonic system over the past few days, and that system is currently located about 900 kilometres towards the northeast of Trincomalee, which means it is moving further away from the country. Now, therefore, the impact of the system is expected to reduce for the northern and eastern coastal belt of the island as it makes its way north-northwest direction of the Bay of Bengal. Now, this is expected to turn into a deep depression in the next 24 hours. That's it from the Weather Centre. Now, up next is your City by City forecast.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of your news. Make sure to connect us on Facebook as well by logging on to facebook.com/first@9 or twitter.com/first@9. And before we go, as usual, we'd like to take you to Belgium, where a dazzling display of Chinese lanterns lit up the Antwerp Zoo to celebrate the holiday season. A magical landscape of illuminated creatures and figures, both real and mythical, is created among the zoo's enclosures. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.